Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. Moments
back.
after we logged off, news broke that the Minnesota Vikings have come to a 1-year deal with pass rusher Marcus Davenport, which I'm now seeing is a 1-year deal worth $13 million. Ryan, we just missed this news, man. Just
Literally, I think you called it out right as you were like hitting end broadcast from our last show. But yes, I mean, and I was like, dude, we got to go live right away. Like this is good. This is good content. So Marcus Davenport, you asked who's going to be the next big splash signing. So that is a splash. One of the better. Here we got Miles coming in here. Perfect. Hey, Miles. Marcus Davenport, one of the better edge rushers in this free agency class right now. He's coming in from the Saints, oft injured, so when you look at his production, you're not going to see a ton of sacks or anything like that. But when he plays, when he's available, he is dynamite. So, I think we got a really, really good player here. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the roster construction? Obviously, I think this spells the end for Zadarius here, who wants out. But, now we have less to worry about when it comes to letting him go because we have this dynamic pass rusher in Marcus Davenport. Miles, what do you know about him that you like, and give us a little bit of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I remember the Saints paid a lot to go get him in the draft coming out a few years ago. They traded a future first-round pick to get Marcus Davenport, and that's where the Packers were able to get Jair Alexander. But I like this move. I think the Vikings are smart to play this. They basically probably told Zadarius, we're not letting you go until we can find a replacement for you. And so, because this number, it looks like it's a $13 million 1-year deal for Davenport. That's basically right in line with what Zadarius was set to make this year. So it's kind of like a 1-for-1. So the Vikings getting younger, getting the same range. Obviously, there's, like you said, I'm looking at his PFF grades, like 34 total pressures, not as many sacks, but that there's ability there. And I think to pair with a guy like Danielle Hunter is really good. He's been playing with Cam Jordan his whole career. And so I think being able to go and pair with the Danielle Hunter and Brian Flores, who likes to get aggressive and be aggressive, I think it's a good move. I think he's a guy you get a look at this year. You see, maybe does he become a part of your long-term future beyond this year? Like, it's kind of like a 1-year sample. You keep your flexibility in 2024. Because if he doesn't work out, then you let him go and you potentially get a comp pick back. But if you like him, then you bring him back and you kind of have that duo with him and Hunter. The only thing I don't know, do we have his age? I don't have it off the top of my head.
So that was what I was going to bring up. So we just finished the last live stream and we had talked about how the Vikings are obviously really, really focused on bringing in younger guys. And here they go again, right? Potentially going to move on from Zadarius Smith here. Marcus Davenport is 26 years old, 26 on a 1-year deal when you can essentially control, not control. I don't want to say control, but you can, see how he does this year and then lock him up again. And he's still at a young age. And so I think that's a crucial.
And what's key here too is, you're getting him for 1 year. I think that's more of a, hey, can you prove to be healthy? I mean, kind of like what we did with Zadarius this year, right? Because if he can stay healthy, I mean, Miles, you could hit the nail on the head here. Just a very aggressive player. Like, he can get after the ball, get after the quarterback. He can get after the ball carrier and run game. And coming out of college, I think he went to like a smaller school. I want to say like
UTSA. University of Texas,
San Antonio. Yeah, that's what I thought. San Antonio. And I was and I just did a quick look up here on kind of comps. Danielle Hunter was his comp coming out from Lancer.
Here we go.
So I mean, you're getting another player that is just big. He was raw coming out. They kind of slow played his career early on just to kind of teach him how to play and do the right things and whatnot. But when he came on strong. So I remember a few different plays that he had made against us. in the times
Yes.
that we've played against them. So, a dynamic guy, this is something that people should be excited about. I know this spells the end for Zadarius, but we just got 4 years younger at that
Yep.
position. So it'll
And
be
cheaper.
and cheap. Well, yeah, cheaper.
So the one thing I was going to bring up to you guys is just some of his stats from even last season. So finished the year with 37 total pressures, only 2 sacks though on the year. Any concern there from you?
Not for me. Pressures equate to sacks typically, right?
Yep.
So pressures impact the quarterback. So as long as you're impacting the quarterback, of course sacks matter, but I think as long as you're impacting the quarterback, that's probably where the biggest impact needs to be. And so, yes, you'd like to see the numbers still go up. I'm not saying 2 is enough. You still want to get home, but I think he played with a lot of good defensive linemen too. And so, as long as everybody else is spreading the wealth and he's getting to the quarterback, and somebody else might be cleaning up the mess, I think that's still fine. I haven't watched enough of Davenport to be like, oh, that's exactly what was happening. But playing with a guy like Cameron Jordan, playing with David Anamiyata, I might have butchered his name, but he just signed a big deal with the Falcons, and so they had a good defensive line in New Orleans, and so he got to play with a few guys that could get after the quarterback. So, and he played with a couple other rotational pass rushers too. But so no, I'm not worried, but it's a number that you want to see go up.
What do you guys think now that happens with obviously Zadarius Smith? He asked for his release. The team said no, and smart on them, right? I mean, it looks like now they're kind of preparing themselves to move on from him. But do you guys see them just outright cutting him? Do you think that maybe it's a trade? What are your thoughts here? And Dan, to answer your question, we just signed edge rusher Marcus Davenport.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, you're trading Zadarius. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's what Zadarius wants. He wants to go to the market and get what he can get. But in an ideal world, you trade him because he does still have some value, and we definitely can. Again, as I just mentioned on the show that we just got off, we really need draft picks. So if we had that ability to get anything for him, that would be fantastic. Now, the likelihood is we probably cut him. Just make it easier. Let him. Kind of more the respectful thing towards him of, hey, go get your bag and go kind of pick your location versus us doing that for you. So I see us doing a more of a cut than a trade, but I prefer the trade for the trade pick values. So
Miles, are you in the same boat kind of as
I
Ryan here?
I just don't see where the market for Zadarius in a trade would be, especially when the Vikings, if the Vikings want to make this deal official, they have to clear enough cap space to make it work. My guess is maybe they tack on a void year here to help themselves out this year. But again, it goes and then you look at next year, kind of like a Dalvin Tomlinson situation. I know Kwesi didn't sign the Dalvin Tomlinson deal with him, but you kind of sign maybe you do a 1-1. So you have Marcus Davenport on a 13-year, 1-year deal, but you add a void year. So maybe you put $5 million into it next year and it voids, but it gives you an opportunity to bring him back. It gives you some flexibility. And so, and it lowers his cap hit this year. So maybe that's a strategy that they're going to do. We saw him do it a little bit last year with a few guys. Maybe that's the strategy, but with Zadarius, I don't think they're in a situation where they have the ability to be able to trade him. Other teams know that he's going to have to hit the market. The Vikings have to make a move to free up that cap space. So I kind of think they're in a situation where they kind of need to, but I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe this is I just saw a comment say he's a DN, not an outside linebacker. Maybe they have an idea of a strategy to play them all together. Maybe Zadarius does stick. It looked like there's reports saying that he looks like he'll be out, but I mean, those types of things in general, you never know, but I would assume it's just an outright cut.
Well, and to address the comment of DN versus outside linebacker, again, we've mentioned this on the show before, but Flores is not a 3-4, 4-3. He's a multiple front kind of guy. He's going to take a look at the opponent and see where their weak points are and how can we best attack them. And if that means that Marcus Davenport needs to jump out to outside linebacker, the Saints in his time there have ran kind of that hybrid type front as well, right? So where guys are standing up and their hands are in the dirt. So he's going to have that ability to flex that muscle now. Hopefully he's a little bit more. He's going to be rushing the passer more than he's in coverage, but he's going to have that ability to. We're going to have that ability to run multiple fronts with him.
Yeah, just a quick comment here for everybody that's here watching us. Please help us hit our goal of 3,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. Hit that like and subscribe button. Miles, we just finished a live show. Ironically, as soon as this news broke, I clicked the end broadcast button, and then boom, up pops this signing of Marcus Davenport. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you your thoughts today on the Josh Oliver signing. Now that we at least have you for a moment here. So what are your thoughts on that? I
think like most fans, when you initially see a number, you're like, oh, like really? Like it definitely took me back. Just more of like I remember liking Josh Oliver coming out of San Jose State as a prospect. I remember being like, oh, maybe he's a mid-round pick the Vikings could target. I think that was the same year they got Irv Smith. But I liked his athleticism. I thought there was an upside there. And he went to Jacksonville. He went to a few places and then ended up in Baltimore and played pretty well as a blocker. And I think that's kind of what he turned into. But I think, again, the numbers might be a tad high. But if the cap continues to go up, if the Vikings really do truly want to utilize a 2 tight end set, and maybe they're using less wide receivers as a whole, then you're putting a little bit more resource into a second tight end, which that to me does make sense. And it's not like it's an egregious overpay, $10 million. Like, so you might have him for 2 years at a reasonable cost. Maybe a slight tick more than you'd like, but I don't think it's anything like egregious. So I'm good with it if KOC thinks it's like something that they need to do to help unlock the run game and to kind of help be a little bit more versatile within the offense. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Somebody put in the comments here. So does the signing of Oliver mean the end of Ham? We were told today when we had Darren Wolfson of KSTP on our show that CJ Ham is, pretty solidified here in Minnesota, and it doesn't appear that he is on his way out. So I wouldn't anticipate the end of CJ Ham. One other note I want to bring up is somebody that we had talked about, never on the podcast, but just more so in our conversations, Miles, about a potential replacement for Dalvin Tomlinson if they don't pursue him. Draymond Jones from the Broncos is headed to the Seattle Seahawks. He gets 3 years, $51 million from Seattle. So that defensive tackle market just keeps kind of scooting on up there. And I don't know if we'll get Dalvin Tomlinson back for a decent deal, but curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Ryan. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, I can't imagine, we're trying to rework these deals and come to a conclusion, and with the limited money that we have, and Dalvin Tomlinson clearly is seeing what's happening out there in the market right now. A lot of these guys are going for big money. He needs to go get his bag. I don't blame him, and my guess is we've seen the end of him here.
Yes.
I mean, the Vikings are definitely going to push for it, but yeah, to your point, I think. But maybe a guy that they could look to replace Dalvin Tomlinson. He's not as good as obviously, but like a Charles Omenihu. Obviously, the 49ers are looking to beef up their D line, but I think Omenihu plays that 3-4 DN, and he's pretty good for them. I don't have his exact numbers in front of me, but
I'm a huge fan of him coming out. By the way, I mean,
yes,
it says a lot for me to say that. Texas guy, yeah.
Yeah, but I liked him in Houston. I remember when the 49ers traded for him, I was like, oh, that actually would be a decent. He had 54 total pressures last year. Maybe not the best against the run, but pretty good pass rusher, and I think the Vikings definitely need that. So that's a name they pivot to if they don't bring Dalvin Tomlinson back. Now, I know the incentive to get Tomlinson back is there because of the void years, and they like him, but you can't price yourself out either just because the void year is there. So
yes,
yeah. Again, Kwesi didn't agree to that deal with Tomlinson either. So yes, they pushed the deadline back to give themselves time, but I don't think Kwesi's like I have to re-sign him at all costs type because it's $7 million, it's $7.5 million. So it's not like they've already eaten enough dead cap this year. I don't think they're going to let like something like that dictate a bad extension either.
Yeah, it goes. It goes back to the like they're not going to outprice themselves on a guy. It's got to make sense for them. It's why they let Patrick Peterson walk, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and another guy and granted, this goes against our theme of getting younger, but Shelby Harris just is getting let go from the Seahawks today. So that's been a name that's been hot off the like on Vikings sphere market over the last couple of years of like, hey, should we trade for Shelby Harris or
Yeah.
is he going to become available? Should we go grab him? Granted, now we're going into a 30s for that type of player, but that's another guy that we potentially could look at. But back to the Marcus Davenport thing real quick. I was just taking a look at Twitter and just kind of seeing what people were having to say. A lot of mixed emotions, a lot of mixed feelings on that.
We
Just
should be
because I think
excited.
I mean, I agree. I'm excited, clearly, but there's a lot of people who are, very much like Zadarius Smith and wanted him to stay. One of the things that I wanted to quick mention is he finished 2022 ranked 28 out of 113 edge defenders with a minimum of 200 snaps. For perspective, Danielle Hunter finished 7th and Zadarius finished 13th. Now, take that with a bit of a grain of salt because Zadarius, I think, was top 5 for a while until that second half. He kind of, again, I'm not sitting here saying he fell off because the pressures were still there. He just wasn't getting the sacks. But
Yes.
I think that hurt him a little bit at that second half of the year. So,
yeah, I think that when we look at all these moves as we kind of round out this show, and I'm hesitant to even click the end broadcast button here because the last time we did it, we got that breaking news. So God forbid it happens again. But I think we're starting to kind of see Kwesi's vision here with these initial moves. So obviously Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks are gone. And now we're bringing in some young guys who really exemplify more about what the Vikings want to do on offense and defense. Run the ball more and get a little bit more pass rush and physicality from the defensive line. So I'm all in on this move. All in. I'm stoked. I poured another glass.
yeah, same.
It's great. It's been a while since we've been ripping it up on a night and being live and talking about the Vikings. So I see we have a lot of. Go ahead.
I was saying, Matt, real quick. Dan Hanneman did bring up a good point. Again, our goal is to hit 3,000 subscribers. So we do appreciate any love that you can bring our way. You can find us at Climb in the Pocket on the Climb in the Pocket YouTube channel.
Yep.
So that's where you're going to go to be able to find our content and subscribe to our stuff.
Yeah, yep. For sure. So any last comments from you two before we reluctantly end this broadcast?
Well, I mean, this is a big signing, right? So, the only reason why I'm slightly like, all right, we got to chill out a little bit is just the fact that that's money that we're not going to be spending, or maybe we are, who knows, on a high-end corner. So I know Miles and I are big on Byron Murphy. I anticipate he's going to probably, based on some of the contracts we've seen over today, we had anticipated he'd be somewhere between 10 and 13 million a year.
I don't think it excludes them from signing a cornerback.
No, I don't either. But like, where's that money coming from? Because we're currently right now. I mean, let's say we swap Davenport.
Interrupt him.
Yeah, you can interrupt me, but say we swap Davenport and Zadarius. That we're still 10 million ish with the Oliver signing over right now.
Well, so that's what I talked about that's why I like finding a Marcus Davenport replacement for Zadarius Smith instead of just cutting Zadarius Smith and not knowing which guy you're going after. You kind of have that deal set, and then now you can go tell Zadarius to kick rocks. Like, thanks for the year, it was fun, and like he wants out. So like, but with Davenport, what I talked about with the void years, and what I like about it is because his age, I would have no problem adding a void year. I don't think they need to add 2, but maybe they add 2. But like they have the flexibility now to spread that cap out. And typically I would say don't do that with the way that things are going. But because he's still only 26 and because there's a lot of upside still to have, like you create an incentive for yourself when you have next year where you're looking to have a lot of cap space. That gives you an opportunity. If you have to eat the $5-6 million that you might have to do to like add a void year to help you this year, I'd be cool with it. But again, create that incentive for yourself to want to create an extension for him next offseason, but also help yourself now. And so what you wouldn't be able to do if you kept Zadarius without giving him a larger new contract is you wouldn't be able to spread out his money. But with a Marcus Davenport, you can add a void year or two and spread that money out. And then that helps, like to your point, Ryan, that helps create that cap space that you might not have had before to go sign up maybe a Byron Murphy, a Sean Murphy Bunting, or whoever they end up going after at cornerback, because we know that they need multiple guys. And so that at least gives you something to play with, and you still get younger. And I think that's a huge part of it too. And so I think, and then we still have the Brian O'Neill opportunity to extend. You maybe a Dalvin Cook trade. Who knows what that situation is? Harrison Smith, something's going to happen with him. We know that. Like, something will happen with Harrison Smith. It'll either be he's gone or he's restructured, like pay cut, whatever. So like those things are going to happen. So the Vikings have flexibility to create some of that room to make these types of moves.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, real quick, I know we're about to jump off, but like you never know what's going to happen. So maybe let's just
Ryan's
keep talking.
He's
let's
delaying
just keep
the
talking
inevitable. He wants to hear more news, but I got news for you, Ryan. It's been the window has been open for 10 hours to negotiate contracts, and we've gotten 2. So at this pace, it'll be 2 a.m. by the time we hear about
the next one. Real quick, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts. There was word that the Broncos are open to potentially trading one of their receivers. So they got Sutton, they got Jeudy, they got Hamler. I know we talked about this mid-season when this topic was available at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the Vikings maybe doing a move like that, going and getting KJ Hamler, getting Jerry Jeudy to pair with JJ?
I think when you look at the draft capital that we have, I don't know if we necessarily have the assets to go get one of those guys. True. I think of the 3 that you mentioned, specifically when we somebody just put in the comment what has happened up to an hour ago. I was pissed at Kwesi. We just signed Marcus Davenport to a 1-year deal, $13 million contract. So join the hype train. But when we think about potentially trading for a Broncos wide receiver, KJ Hamler is the one that stands out the most to me. I think he would be probably the most beneficial. I think Jeudy is going to cost too much. I think Cortland, I don't have this information. You're catching me off guard, but I think Cortland Sutton's contract is a little bit spendier, so I don't see them kind of looking that route.
And he's 28.
And he's older, and it's not the route that we're going to go. He had a torn ACL. So Hamler is the one for me that if we're going to go and try and get him, sure. I don't want to give up. I'd rather, by the way, if you're watching, you can go look at my day one draft prospects for wide receivers that I think would be good fits here as an Adam Thielen replacement, but I'd rather wait for the draft and try one of those guys. I and especially Miles and you are kind of in love with a lot of these wide receivers, especially on day 2. I'd rather spend a third on a Marvin Mims than move it to the Broncos to get KJ Hamler. So
me too.
That's just my opinion. So
Marvin Mims are bust right now for me. I mean, but that's every year. Every year, my Oklahoma guy got to go all in or bust.
Yeah. So we've been rolling.
Hey, real quick, I just want we had some.
We're gonna keep going.
That's why I've had some people ask questions about like where Marcus Davenport can like line up, and I'm like, I just went back to look at Brian Flores' last defense with Miami in 2021, just to kind of like, hey, who are some guys that could compare? And I think maybe Emmanuel Ogbah could be a comparison to like a Marcus Davenport, but that's more of like, to other people's points, like a true defensive end, defensive line, maybe not that true outside pass rusher. So that's why I'm curious kind of and maybe they still address that in the draft. Maybe there's a lower level guy because they have Patrick Jones. If they get rid of Zadarius Smith, they have Patrick Jones. They have who's the other underwhelming
DJ Wanham.
DJ Wanham. Like I'm not saying those guys are starting level players, but like if Marcus Davenport truly is more of a defensive lineman, which if you can get to passer, we need that interior pass rush, which is super important. I'd just be curious where they would look to pivot if he's not a true outside linebacker playing. If he plays more of that hand in the ground rather than the outside linebacker position, which he could be.
We're going to be running a lot of 4-2-5. So
yes, no, I agree. I agree.
So,
they'll make it all work. I'm just saying, I kind of wonder with some of that personnel how they'll mix and match it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts before we round out this show?
We got all these thoughts. Hey, Matt, I told you if we get back to drinking on these shows, all the thoughts flow out. That's just what happens.
I mean, we can fire up a weekly night show, I guess, where we're just down in drinks talking Vikings. Though in the summertime, I can already see my cheeks are getting a little rosy down here. This is the third glass here of whiskey, so we might need to cut this one short before I say something I regret as it pertains to Kirk Cousins. But anyway.
Miles is like, yeah, I just joined you guys just now. I haven't been drinking.
I haven't been drinking anything at all.
Speaking of drinking, let's make sure that we give a shout out to Lake Monster Brewing.
We'll be there on Wednesday.
We're going to be there Wednesday.
Yep.
You guys got to come join us. You can literally do this live with us. We're going to talk football. Hopefully we have some more interesting things to talk about. Grab some of the greatest beer here in Minnesota, craft beer here in Minnesota, and enjoy that. And then, of course, That's Badass Wood Art. I got one coming. You're going to see Randy Moss right up here, coming up here soon, hopefully. So
promo code CT Pocket for 20% off any one item at that'sbadasswoodart.com. Make sure you take care of that. Dan's calling me a lightweight here.
Yeah.
If you're in, like Ryan said, if you're in the cities, come to Lake Monster on Wednesday night, March 15th. We'll be there at 7:30, just chit-chatting, drinking beer, talking Vikings, Marcus Davenport, whatever news rolls out here in these next couple of days. We would love to see you. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys tonight. So until next time, SKOL Vikings.